For this session, Gary Brotman, he's the Director of Product Management. Gary drives strategic product business and marketing efforts for Qualcomm's Connected Experiences AllPlay smart media platform. He's a digital media veteran with over 15 years experience creating software, hardware, and services that push the boundaries of technology to help consumers, artists, and businesses discover, experience, promote, and distribute digital media. So without further ado, I introduce to you Gary Brotman.
Thank you. Thank you. You good? Can everybody hear me okay? Very good. I have a quick poll. How many app developers are here in the room? Raise your hand, please. Of you guys, how many of you deal with streaming media? Okay, very good. Anybody from the handset space or carrier space? Consumer electronics? Oh, good. All right, we have a smattering of everything. What we're going to talk about today, or what I'm going to drone on about, and hopefully it'll be entertaining, is wireless audio, specifically as it relates to our view, Qualcomm's view of the Internet of Everything. We've taken the approach that for mass consumer adoption of Internet of Things or Internet of Everything devices, you need something that would get the average consumer engaged, something that's non-threatening, non-technical, fun, exciting. And we've really zeroed in on music as being that behavior, that experience that'll get somebody into trying advanced controls around streaming music around their house, and then maybe that'll lead to experiencing or trying other IoE devices and creating interesting experiences and conversations between those devices in the home. You're going to hear a lot about what the footprint looks like for connected devices. You'll probably see this slide and this number a number of times over the next couple of days. But the short description is that the opportunity is massive for the IoE. 25 billion connected devices by the year 2020, which is really just right around the corner. When you look at the audio segment, we look at three different things that are driving consumer adoption of the IoE, specifically as it relates to audio. So you have wireless streaming, and we're going to talk a lot about wireless streaming in this session. There are advanced use cases that some consumers, early adopters of whole home audio products that can stream music from one room to another or the same content from their favorite playlist across the entire home wirelessly. It's something that few people do today, but it's something that's rapidly becoming a more advanced use case, or at least a more prevalent behavior with new products coming onto the market that allow this type of functionality. And then there's just the handset itself. I mean, everybody has a phone, and I guarantee that you're spending more than 50, maybe 75% of your time doing things other than phone calls. One of those things is being able to control the devices around you. So your handset is really your global remote control for everything. And in the case, or at least in the context of this discussion, it is your remote control for your music. Excuse me. Looking at the opportunity from a revenue standpoint, the connected devices that are streaming media, or at least participating in the digital music distribution specifically, the market by 2017 is intended or expected to be somewhere on the order of $16 billion. That's for everybody participating, from content, hardware, services distribution, the infrastructure behind that. And the growth is fairly healthy. You see a lot today of Bluetooth as being one of the primary ways that people are streaming audio, and Wi-Fi we see as something that's going to be a far more prevalent protocol for that. But there's two big buckets to look at. One is the shift to on-demand streaming, specifically in the connected home, which is what we're going to talk about today. We call it whole home listening or whole home audio. Streaming is really a main source. People have music stored on their hard drive. They have music stored on their phone. But with streaming content becoming so prevalent and so easily accessible, you don't really have to possess the bits to take advantage of them and enjoy them. You can just press a button and they come down from the ether. Again, I mentioned mobile as a universal remote control. This thing in your pocket is doing everything for you. And it doesn't even have to be a bottleneck. It doesn't have to be engaged. It can be a transient player in that experience. You can move music around the house, or you can take the phone off the network and the music will still play. And wireless is really the core paradigm. No more wires. You really don't need to have anything truly connected to enjoy not only a baseline listening experience, but something that's quite high in terms of quality. You're also seeing a transition from price being a premium or a priority to the quality being more of a premium. And I'll talk about this a little bit down the road, but lower price, specifically in the realm of Bluetooth, has seeded the market and has gotten people comfortable with the idea of streaming to a simple Bluetooth speaker. There's been a sacrifice in quality. But with the infrastructure of Wi-Fi and high-resolution audio becoming more prevalent, consumers are becoming more aware of and starting to look more towards the higher quality aspect of music that's been stripped away by compression and protocols like Bluetooth. Our customers specifically, and the folks that we talk to in the industry, look at high quality as a differentiator. It'll likely become a commodity in the next 24 to 48 months, but today, it truly is a differentiator, those that are taking high-resolution audio and also bringing additional context into the music experience. People have cheap earbuds. A lot of people are starting to buy more premium headphones. And really that transition from Bluetooth to Wi-Fi, which is just now starting to begin. I think if you asked any average consumer, they'll look at Bluetooth as actually being somewhat of an audio protocol or something they identify with audio, and Wi-Fi is really kind of a connectivity. That's what I get out of my router at my home or from my internet. But as the quality and the experience becomes better, Wi-Fi becomes more, it's equated with better quality media streaming throughout the house. So let's talk a little bit about streaming. If you've been following the news, and if you're like the average consumer today, you're getting more of your music from streaming. It's projected at this point that digital music, downloads and streaming, will surpass any physical media. I'm an analog guy, and I'm excited that in that physical format, vinyl is on the rise, but there you go. But overall, digital has totally started to take over, and over time, you'll see that number dwindle. And the streaming piece of it specifically, paid streaming, while it's not huge relative to the overall market yet, it is the fastest growing category. Unpaid ad-supported is certainly big in terms of volume. Most of the services out there, whether it's Spotify or Pandora or others, are streaming a ton of content to consumers for advertising or other means or just for free. You can see the growth here in unpaid digital music subscriptions. So these are people that are listening to free internet radio and personalized radio. And then there's paid digital downloads or paid digital music subscriptions. 3x growth between 2013 and expected by 2017. So while you hear a lot of naysayers and a lot of doom and gloom about, well, people are streaming, but there's not enough money coming into the ecosystem, it's there, and there's some things that we're doing and the industry is doing to help bring more value into that experience, specifically in the home, that we'll talk about a little bit later. This is an interesting chart we put together. If you look at where things started, I guess an LP is probably even, we can go further back to a gramophone for that matter. The four different ways to categorize, ease of acquisition or durability or portability, these are different characteristics of the different media. And as you move to the right and to the bottom, you get down to streaming. Streaming really offers everything. It offers easy access, tons of music. I mean, you have a glut of content, which actually puts some of the service providers in the position to have to be tastemakers or filters, because consumers can't weed through it all on their own. It has the greatest portability. You have access 24 hours a day, so you can get access to anything that you want from a music standpoint. In terms of its durability, it's highly durable. You don't have to worry about scratches on the record. You don't have to worry about scratches in the CD or the tape coming out of your cassette, if anybody remembers cassettes. And then it's fully legal. There are fully legitimate services. If we were talking 14 years ago, there wouldn't have been such a thing. Now you have access to the universe's jukebox, for that matter. The one point to point out, though, is that quality in terms of streaming is something that, depending on how you categorize quality, quality has been I guess, hampered by the pipe or bandwidth. But you're starting to see services like Deezer, which just came to the United States and launched what they call a high-res service, subscription service. I think it's only available on Sonos at this point, called Deezer Elite. And you have a couple of other services like Qobuz and Tidal, who are announcing their intent to move into the United States with high-resolution streaming services, not really low-quality, highly compressed content. So there's a couple more examples where quality is becoming more of a focus. And then dialing back just to the mobile piece. I'm just making an assumption that everybody here listens to music on their phone, because mobile is really the easiest way to access your content unless you're sitting in your car. The access model is one that, or let's say, consumers have gone from, or are starting to go from, the idea of ownership or possession of bits, the content that you have stored on your phone or on your hard drive or on your computer, as being what you consider ownership. But that's shifting to access. So as long as I can press play and I get the music that I want immediately, it doesn't really matter whether I possess the bits or I have access. So access is being something that's equated to ownership. Personal libraries, while I think a number of us probably still curate our own content, we've been doing it for years since we were able to rip CDs and get music down off of Napster. The personal library experience is actually, or the library experience or storage experience, is being replaced by more personal listening. Excuse me. And that's done through a variety of filtering mechanisms, collaborative filtering, recommendations from friends. On-demand access gives you infinite levels of content at your fingertips. And there are a ton of mass market services catering to different levels of engagement and different types of consumers. While Pandora and RDO and others are really a mass market and top tier, these guys are the leaders in the space in terms of active listeners. There are niche sites or niche services coming up that focus on splinter genres and subgenres, and even large accepted genres like classical that are very hard to index, and someone would argue that are relegated to what your grandmother might listen to. I ran into a service in Berlin last week called Adagio. This guy is going to be launching this application in the next month or two, and the way he introduces classical to a younger audience is actually, it's inviting. You don't think of classical music as being an elite genre or something that's relegated to the older demographic. There's an exposure from across the map to all different kinds of music. So, today consumers are doing three things in the home, or at least consuming music in three different ways in the home. One, they're streaming music from their handset. Right? So you can stream music Bluetooth to a handset, but now you can do it also over Wi-Fi. So this illustration is one song to one speaker in the house. But you can also do multiple streams from different sources. So I can have a computer with a media server that I can stream to one speaker, and I can have music on my handset streamed to another. And each of us could actually be on the same network and do the same thing all around the home. You could easily just take one of those songs that you're playing in the bedroom or on the patio and have it stream across the entire house with a touch of a button, something we call party mode. And then the streaming service can get into the game. That was a very interesting graphic there, Jake. I couldn't figure that one out. But imagine you have all the different streaming services up in the cloud. They're also able to stream into the home. And they don't necessarily have to stream into the home through the handset. They can go through the home access point directly to the speaker, and the handset is just there as a remote control. You can take it out of the network, you can turn it off, the music still plays. The challenges, though, even though this market is starting to grow, there are still challenges in the way, hurdles that prevent consumers from really, mass consumers, from really being able to manipulate music around their entire home. From a manufacturer OEM perspective, the types of technology have not been readily available. Some companies have created proprietary ecosystems, their own R&D, and have invested millions of dollars in creating their own walled gardens. There's all different kinds of standards. There's DLNA, there's AirPlay, there's AllPlay, which is what we promote here at Qualcomm. And there's a lot of fragmentation, especially when you start to introduce the different proprietary systems that are also out in the space. From our standpoint as a platform provider with AllPlay, we look at the different solutions that our competitors put out there, and they're partial in nature. Some are focused on hardware, some are focused on software, some have interesting ways of bringing cloud content into the system. And then there's just the baseline technology that's brought to bear, specifically the technology. So if you don't have good Wi-Fi, you don't have good audio. It doesn't matter what type of formats you support. It doesn't matter what the speaker looks like and how much you put into the ID and the tooling. If you don't have a decent Wi-Fi signal, you can't get anything out of it. There's no value for the end user. So this would be the quick pitch, and then we can move on to some more stuff. At Qualcomm, we've been working on a platform called AllPlay. And AllPlay, which some of you, if you came to Uplink last year, you might have run into AllPlay in a couple of places, one of which was in Paul Jacobs' keynote, where he had the CEO of Rhapsody come up on stage, and we kind of unveiled the software piece of AllPlay. What it really is, it's an integrated hardware and software platform, a turnkey solution, something that's fully regulatory certified that any manufacturer of a speaker or accessories or even routers and gateways can participate in the whole home audio experience and deliver products to consumers. And it's all built on top of AllJoyn. So you're going to hear a lot, if you haven't already, hear a lot about AllJoyn. AllJoyn for us is our answer, and we truly believe that it's the case, that it's our answer to the Internet of Everything. It's the connective tissue that binds not only the AllPlay speakers together, but binds speakers together with TVs and door locks and washer dryers and other relevant devices in the home that can create really unique experiences for a consumer and make the connected home a reality. Not a bunch of disparate IP addresses with their individual clouds, but something where every device speaks the same language. Doesn't matter where the content is from. It can be on a handset. It can be in your on a computer, it can be on a NAS drive, it can be up in the cloud. You have access to all your media, irrespective of where it's stored. And we bring, I like to say this, we have excellent Wi-Fi. You can find our Wi-Fi in a variety of consumer electronics devices, including the Airport Express, the Samsung Shape speakers. It's very well road tested around media distribution in the home. And it doesn't matter how you want to manipulate that content in the house. You can stream classical to the bedroom, you can stream hip-hop to the patio, or you can have Steely Dan playing across the entire home. Well, at least I would. I know, I knew something was coming. And we also support high-resolution audio, all the way up to 192, 24-bit, FLAC, and Apple lossless. So really the options that we bring to our partners and customers in terms of audio quality and codecs is pretty vast. And you'll see here a couple of these components. If you take the AllPlay system, you also get access to reference design applications for iOS and Android to actually control the entire experience. So today you can go to Google Play, you can download the AllPlay jukebox. We also offer up SDKs for those applications. So if you want to go hog wild with the UI, you can design to your heart's content. Last year, I don't think, at Uplink, we didn't have any customers signed on yet, but at CES, we had a handful of folks that had announced support for the AllPlay platform. And as of last month, you can start buying these products in retail. The first few are from Panasonic, who has a product line called the All-Series speakers, wireless speakers for the home, as well as audio adapters to retrofit legacy stereos and non-IP connected devices. Excuse me. They're in Europe today. Can't speak to their distribution plans globally yet. It's not my place. But you're also going to start seeing some other brands like Medion, which is from Lenovo, Lenco, which is a Swiss CE brand, and most recently Monster will be introducing a line of wireless speakers, whole home audio speakers that are based on the AllPlay platform. So we've started to build quite a footprint with a handful of industry leaders. And I mentioned earlier that we're not just focused on the speaker guys. There's this outfit called Phone. Anybody know Phone? Wow, okay, a couple of heads nodding. Phone positions themselves as the world's largest public Wi-Fi network. They give telcos these little devices that enable their consumers or their subscribers to extend the range of Wi-Fi in their home or create public hotspots. And they can go to different hotspots if they're a subscriber all around the world. And they introduced this product called the Gramophone about 3 months ago on Kickstarter. Little black box, nice light pipe on the top. Initially streaming Spotify. But they've done this very interesting thing of combining connectivity, which is a need, with music, which is a desire. And something that we expect other networking companies to actually follow suit and participate. You can just throw an AllPlay module in a router, put a line out and a DAC, and then you have a router that can stream music around the home. So if you have a bedroom way in the far reaches of the house, you can take a gramophone, plug it in, extend the range, and you can make that an audio node in the house and synchronize that with the rest of the products in the home. So there's very unique use cases that are coming out of this. It's not just about the traditional speaker guys. It's not just about traditional CE. It's about anybody that participates in this ecosystem today, even from an infrastructure standpoint, can actually create experiences around this. This other piece, the last piece, which is actually the most important piece as it relates to this discussion, especially for app developers, whether you're building a media player or whether you have a service, whether it's personalized radio or on-demand subscription service. One of the things that we recognized when we built this platform was that in order for anybody who's fielding products like this to actually field a product that consumers will want, they need to have streaming content services. Some popular, some niche, but at least a variety of content that you can get from the cloud. But the challenge that the cloud service providers, and I won't ask anybody who's on that side of the space to talk about the economics. I'll just say I spent enough years in that business to know that it's a tough slog. You're paying a lot of money back in royalties to the labels. It's very difficult to be a standalone service and be profitable and grow. We recognize this as a place where we could add value and help these services thrive. Let them participate on their own terms. Provide a tool set that allows the service provider to continue to engage with their listener, their subscriber, their fans, if you will. I know that I know how to navigate for music in RDO. It's comfortable to me. I want to use that app to not only enjoy the media on the phone, but to also be able to liberate it and stream it to products in the house. I don't want to have to learn how to discover music in somebody else's branded ecosystem through somebody else's controller application. So the Click SDK that we have is a very simple iOS and Android cross-platform implementation that allows any media player developer or cloud service provider to discover AllPlay speakers and stream to one or many with the full UI controls to group the speakers and be able to stream around the home. So you don't have to send the customer or send your subscriber or the user of your media player app to somebody else's branded ecosystem on the hardware side. Today, you can actually find a handful of applications that have already integrated. Well, actually, let me do this. I have a demo. I'll try to give you the live demo instead of going through the screenshots. And I'm going to skip around real quick. I'm just going to share the list of folks that are already in our ecosystem. So everybody on this list has either already launched an application that includes the Click SDK or has intended to do so, with the exception of Spotify. Spotify has their own end-to-end ecosystem for streaming. It's called Spotify Connect. So they saw the opportunity in the home entertainment space, or in the home, to be able to own that chain, own that ecosystem, or own that relationship with the customer end-to-end, from the handset to the device to the cloud. So they built really a full proprietary system, and we built something that was there for everybody else. But we support Spotify on the platform. So all these services, whether it's Napster and Rhapsody, which were the first, to Rekichoku in Japan, they've all signed up, and they're all going to be launching as different products roll out in their respective regions. Jake, how many do we have live right now? 9? 8. So there's 8 different applications or services and media players like Double Twist that have integrated this SDK. Let me go back. So in terms of the opportunity for a developer, the data that we have shows that owners of connected music systems in the house are twice as likely to pay for music subscriptions. So these are the devices, this is the behavior that will drive revenue into the content ecosystem. And the playing field really is shifting quite a bit. So you have increased value. And what I say is, if I'm Pandora or RDO or Rhapsody for that matter, by adding that additional functionality, there's an added value, additional features that I can offer up to my customers. That'll help with lifetime value. It might even help get somebody over the hump to actually subscribe to the service in the first place. It's not just locked to the phone with little white earbuds. You're actually able to stream the music to a device that renders the audio in a way it was intended. You also get access to the whole home. So again, you can carry your phone with you everywhere, but Imagine being able to stream content all throughout the house, and I'll give you some other examples, not just around the speakers, but also the other devices in the home that participate in that conversation via things like AllJoin. And it's really about scale. If you're a content provider or a media player app developer and you want to get into the whole home ecosystem or into devices, you've had to do that one-to-one. You've had to talk to each of the brands individually, strike deals with each one, sometimes write custom code for each one, or support their efforts with your API. And that's a lot of work. On the sales side, it's a lot of work on the development side. And when you're operating on single-digit margins, it makes it a little bit difficult. For us, if you take the SDK, it's write once, stream to many. We don't charge for it. We can, you guys can go, and I'll show you at the end how to get access to the SDK. If you can continue to license your APIs out to the hardware manufacturers, but there's really no need to when you have access to iOS and Android users across the connected home on all kinds of devices. The other piece is just the relationship that you have with your customers. You don't want to let go of that. You don't want to give up UX. You don't want to give up brand. You don't want to give up revenue for like display advertising revenue or subscription revenue. And you want to maintain control of that UX. The Click SDK that I was talking about actually has a built-in UX, and if we have a way you can strip that away and integrate this into your own application so that it suits your overall UX. And I can show you an example of that as well. But out of the box, the Click SDK with the UI is what we have most of our customers going after. Let me skip forward one more. Let's talk about AllJoin. I mentioned that AllJoin is what we're using right now for discovery at its base level. So AllPlay speakers can see each other in the home. An AllPlay speaker can see other devices in the home, and vice versa. Part of the quality that was stripped away, or let's say when MP3s became the common way of digesting music or consuming music, consumers sacrificed a lot in quality. So you had this highly compressed audio. And not only was the quality stripped away, but the context. So all that richness in the experience of listening to music, sitting in your living room, well, I'm going to date myself, but if you listen to records and read album art and liner notes, and the tactile experience, the mood lighting, everything else, I mean, music was an experience until it became fully digital. What we can do, and what we already are doing with AllJoin in this mix, is bringing a lot of that context back, albeit digital, but in a far more immersive way than you'll find elsewhere. So one example, if I am in the UK today and I can go to Curry's and I can buy a Panasonic speaker, I can also buy an LG TV, smart TV, that has AllJoin in it. And when I put both of those devices on a Wi-Fi network, all the metadata in the content that I'm streaming to that Panasonic speaker is then expressed by the Panasonic speaker to any AllJoin display in the home, or any AllJoin device for that matter. So the LG TV will automatically display now playing information. So artist name, album, soon-to-be album art. And the consumer didn't have to do anything. It just appears. It was like magic. So you think about all the stuff that you don't have, and I don't want to have to pull my phone out of my pocket every time a new song comes on. It just shows up on the TV. Great for when I'm entertaining, too, because then I don't have to figure out who's playing. Everybody gets to see who it is on the TV. Then there's some baseline notification examples. So I got to go on a business trip tomorrow. I got a load of laundry in the wash. The washer goes awry, load's unbalanced. The washer dryer can tell my speaker system to alert me that there's something wrong. Or somebody comes to the door, and the doorbell triggers the speaker to be a PA system. So any other device in the home that has an event or wants to notify the audio system in the house can do so, all via AllJoin. And the last use case that this is my favorite one, it's the lighting use case. So all that metadata that's associated with the music, or a variety of other programmatic ways that app developers can take AllJoin and manipulate the lights in the home. So the new breed of Wi-Fi light bulb that changes to a million different colors and pulsates and what have you. So that mood lighting when you were listening to Pink Floyd's The Wall sitting in the living room on vinyl, again, I know I'm old, it all comes back. And it comes back in a way that's automatic, highly immersive, and very unique to the end user, and really brings a lot of that quality and value back in. So quality and context all come rushing back after about 10 to 15 years of, I'd say, being completely trashed. Why did you say 5? 5 minutes? Is it really? Okay, I better move. Yeah, this is the last question, or the last slide. So if you're interested in trying out the Click SDK, we have it. There's my official timekeeper right there. We just recently published the Click SDK for any app developer that wants to give this a shot. We're working with a handful of folks directly today, independent of the ones that have already launched. But it's freely available for anybody to download today and start playing around with. So if you're working for a media player company or a cloud service company, big or small, you can participate in the AllPlay ecosystem. Just go to our developer portal and download the SDK. So I think I zipped through those pretty quickly. So I have 15 minutes for questions.
Are you going to do the demo?
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that one. Thanks for the reminder. Phil's going to do the demo. You can't see it, though. Okay, down with the rush. Thank you. Some of you may have seen this last year. Hold on a second. Let me get I don't want you to see my password. I know. Yes. Shh. All right, there we go. So, there we go. Zoom in a little. This is Rhapsody. This is available today in Google Play as well as the iOS version in the Apple App Store. And you open up the application. It's on the Wi-Fi network with the AllPlay speakers, and I have the AllPlay button. And that AllPlay icon then brings up the UI. This is the packaged UI that comes with the SDK. This is what you get if you go to download the SDK from our website. And I can pick individual speakers, so I think the living room is giving me a little bit of trouble. I might not want to try to play there. Let's try the patio. I don't think I'm getting a good signal down here. So again, I've got all the controls to be able to manipulate the speaker. It can be from Panasonic, be from Lenco. I can have an entire house full of different brands of products, all controlled by the one application. I can also group the product or group the speakers together. Hold on 1 second. Group them. Okay. Now this one is going to give me a little bit of trouble, so we might not get any audio out of it, but you can see I have the ability to change individual volume. I can do group volume control. All this within the native Rhapsody application. I go out and I can do the same thing with Soma FM. If you're familiar with Soma FM, this is my personal favorite. I was born in the wrong era, and Soma FM brings me to where I should have been. You can see their placement of the SDK was the bottom. And then as a little bit of an advanced look, Double Twist actually took the SDK. We typically haven't talked about this broadly, but they took the headless version of the SDK, meaning they didn't take our UI. We actually worked with them to do a little bit of a custom implementation. So I'm going to play a little squeeze here off of my phone. They have their own icon here, this little Magic Play cast icon, and under that, they have their own UI. So what they do is they intermingle AllPlay devices, AirPlay devices, DLNA devices. They provide the entire array of connected devices they can liberate content to. In this case, you're seeing in just the AllPlay devices. I can select one, I can select two, the buttons toggle to select them, and AllPlay speakers are the only ones that can actually be grouped or turned on at the same time. So there's quite a bit of flexibility in the way this is implemented. Anything else would be, and then we also have an interesting one. We introduced something at IFA. We've been working with TuneIn for a while, and TuneIn was unable to get the SDK into their app right away, but we ended up taking their service and implementing something we call AllPlay Radio, so you can get all the TuneIn stations via this new application. It also has the Click SDK built in. I think that gives you enough of a demo to understand how this works. So on that, any questions? Yes?
So, two parts. The first is latency. What's the latency you are dealing with? And also, on hardware that doesn't have any user interface, how do you guys deal with security?
So on the latency front, what would be the source in the question? Just any source, whether it's from the cloud or local?
Local. So
local source to sync latency is probably sitting, where are we at, about third of a second, 300 milliseconds right now? Yeah. And then the other question was about security.
Security with pretty much dumb devices like a light bulb. Like, how do you make sure somebody else doesn't control your light bulb to your home?
Yeah, that's a great question. Phil, you have any answer on that one? Phil's going to answer from an all-join standpoint.
How you doing? I'm Phil Carney, Senior Director of Engineering for the AllPlay platform. Since we use AllJoin to do all of our communication between devices, AllJoin supports 3 types of connections between devices: an unsecured connection, connection that can be secured at layer 3 through username and password or just a password, or if the 2 devices have been programmed with certificates, you can do certificate-based point-to-point, end-to-end authorization and encryption between those 2 devices. So it all depends upon what security models the OEM of the specific device has implemented, whether and how secure the connection between those 2 devices would be. The same thing with the connection between, if you're an application developer, because we use AllJoin as part of the Click SDK and the controller SDK, the devices here support various levels of encryption and authentication between the handset and the device itself. Or if you were going to, build, as Gary alluded to, part of the power of this platform is not just that it plays music; it's that you can use it to give voice to your application or give voice to your device, right? And because the device supports all 3 levels of this type of encryption, you can do whatever you want. Sure. We use Snapdragon Blood for speaker-to-speaker synchronization. That's actually a trade secret of how we do that. The platform is designed so that you can get audio into the group of speakers through any various means that you want. So we support, DLNA, AllPlay, optionally AirPlay, HLS, TuneIn, Spotify, a whole bunch of different things. But then once we get it to one of the speakers, which is sort of the master of the group, that speaker is responsible for getting it out to the rest of the speakers, and how we do that is Qualcomm's.
How we do that is, but we actually have, publicly, we've talked about skew between the zones being around 2 milliseconds.
Yeah.
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 The skew, yeah. It's coming. We're taking a hard look at it.
Yeah, this is the type of data that you would put over the system is orthogonal to the system itself, right? So besides codec support, there's really not that much difference between the various types of media that you could put over such a platform.
It was designed to be full multimedia, but if you look at the landscape of media, audio, video, images, what have you, there are tens, hundreds, of maybe thousands of different people trying to vie for a piece of the video pie. And rather than go into that and get a little small chunk of that, we figured there was this great untapped landscape, which is whole home audio, that's been dominated by 1 or 2 brands over the past 5, 6 years, and build a brand there, solve a problem, and build out.
Has there been any thought, or is it possible to swap the source and sync? Like, rather than putting speakers around your house, putting microphones around your house, and your phone or your mobile device being the aggregator of those things?
Today, it's not productized that way. It's certainly possible, but it's not something that we've really delved into too much. We look at ways that you can use microphones as an example of detecting if somebody has entered a room so the audio can follow you, as an example, but we've not really looked at it. Well, he's going to want to speak. I know that much. He's got some ideas about this. Yeah, but we really haven't dug into it too much. Phil has, I'm sure.
Yeah, there is I2S on the platform. So you could use that I2S input for whatever you wanted to. Some people want to use it for line in. You could use it for microphone input. You could use it for, any I2S digital audio source that you want to.
Anyone else? Yes.
If anybody wants to talk about hardware specifics or anything else like that, come grab me after the session, and we can talk in more depth about how the hardware is actually structured, how it works.
You mentioned not needing the device itself to be in the audio path. Like, for instance, it would come straight from the home router. Are there any products out there that support that?
Products, well, AllPlay products, they're actually, today you can buy this Panasonic speaker.
No, I mean the router.
Oh, the router. Sorry. Today, let's see, routers. I'm trying to think.
We're going to talk about that next.
Are you going to talk about that next? Alan will talk about that next. But the way that we've architected the system is that the home access point is still the primary way that the devices are connected to each other. Although you can actually connect to AllPlay speakers via direct mode Wi-Fi. So you don't have to have the access point in the middle. But if I'm streaming content from a NAS drive or a computer or from a cloud service, the handset, as I mentioned, is really a remote control. All it does is tell the speaker to fetch the stream from the source. And in the home, it'll pull it through the AP. But once it's made that peer-to-peer connection between the source and the sink, all the handset does is visualize that connection. There's nothing actually passing through the phone.
And that's what was happening in the demo.
Yes, exactly. So I could have turned off the phone and the music would still play. It'd still come down from Rhapsody. The same thing would have been true if my Mac was on and I was using XBMC to serve up content.
You could drop your phone in a glass of water and the music will still play. Yeah. My new phone hasn't come yet. It's been ordered. It's a 4-week backlog.
There you go. Any other questions? All right, very good. If you didn't get a T-shirt, there's plenty left. So thanks for stopping by and having a listen.